Hello YouTubers, welcome to the next episode. We've made it to another Friday. We've got the Friday shirt on. Oh yeah, got my smooth. We're going to finish this up, then head into the club, get changed and get ready. But one other thing, new jeans on today that I've not worn in a while. And they've got smaller or I've got bigger, who knows. But now, let's get on the water. And turns out we're not on the water, we're in the gym. Oh yeah. And we've made it back into the crew room after a wonderful weight session. Ed's doing his hair. Oh yeah! Got the Eddie Bragg toast. For today's breakfast, as per usual, might change things up, probably won't. But now it's time to fuel up because food is fuel, and then we'll see what we're doing for next session. Very windy outside. Alright, let's get fueling up. And going to be another session at 8, but first we have to adjust the blades. Oh yeah, Ed, what are we going for today?
I think it's a light session.
Oh yeah, some interesting rigging going on, but Beachy wants us to do it and see what happens. We'll find out. But let's get on the water now. Oh yeah! After not seeing the 8 out because we had an issue with the GoPro, but that's alright. Now we've got some board games and puzzling. Oh yeah! Now it's time to fuel up because food is fuel.
Had the remote and then
And we've got delicious lunch today. Some pork, some delicious potatoes and vegetables. Oh yeah, good fuel for some good post-session fueling. Oh yeah!
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we've got a lovely ergo this afternoon. Let's get to it. And we've made it out of the ergo, end of the day. Fantastic, just getting the heart rate up for a longer period of time. Oh yeah. Now to get back to the house and talk about my university rowing experience. Oh yeah. And we have made it back to the house for a little bit of a chat about my university rowing experience. It was actually a question from Jake Ultimate Big Dog 420. His question was, I just finished up my schoolboy rowing career in Australia and I'm thinking about going over to the US next year, and I'm going over to visit Northeastern, which is where I went, among other unis, in November. Ran to your vlogs. To my understanding, you went to Northeastern and are currently the only person I know. Would it be okay for you to share some experience, some light on your experience as you rowed there? Please let me know. So, I thought, rather than just message him and then still get more questions about my university rowing career or experience, then I might as well just make another vlog about it. I have made a couple before, just explaining kind of how I ended up rowing, but I haven't really described what it was like rowing at my university, which is Northeastern University in Boston, USA. So obviously this is my experience. Everyone's experience has differed. I know a lot of guys that have went to different universities and their experiences were very different than mine. And that's basically, that's not specific to like the rowing universities or University in America. You can have a very different experience from one university to the next, and just at the same university having one individual to the next individual. So this is all based on my experience and how I enjoyed my experience at uni. So let's get into it. Okay, I was basically, my first year at uni was my novice rowing year, and I was not thrown in at the deep end, but I was lucky to have. It was the last year of US collegiate rowing having the freshman rule, which meant that if you were a freshman, a first year uni student, you had to row in the freshman class. Now that doesn't happen. I think that, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the freshman classes, boat classes are now fading away quite heavily, and now pretty much when you arrive at uni, you can be in any of the boats. So my freshman year, I was very lucky to be thrown in with a bunch of guys, some with loads of experience already as a first year at uni, some like myself, not so much experience, but really keen and really ready to go. We all made a really tight bond together as a class and as a boat, and we did really well. So that made the whole sort of experience awesome. And then it kind of continued from there. The class kind of stayed together, and then we were in boats together all the way through. And we played, I think the top place, so third in the freshman class, which no longer exists, at nationals, IRAs in the first year, and then fourth and second year, sixth or seventh and third, and sixth or seventh and fourth. So so we were doing well, and then kind of tailed off towards my later years at uni, but that's a whole different story. It was all that we're talking about my experience. So the American uni experience is completely different than one you'll get in the UK, and that's just talking to all my friends from the UK unis. And also I can't really talk about unis in other countries because I've never been there and not spent much time around those unis in other countries. So very different than unis in the UK. So unis in America, essentially, I went to high school in America as well for a year, so it's an extension of that. So it's not really like going from high school in the UK to uni here in the UK, because it's not like, okay, high school, you have your classes, you get taught this subject, you go to that subject, you get taught that subject, and then the UK unis, it's kind of like, okay, you've got this thing due at the end of the month, or these things due at the end of the month, you can come to lectures, no one's really taking attendance, so it's very self-driven in the UK. Not all courses, but like the majority of the people I've spoken to is more self-driven. At least at my university, it was very, not the same as high school, but quite similar. So you had your class schedule, you had the different subjects, the different professors, you had your homework set, until you obviously extended up to the senior levels, then it'd be more self-driven. But especially in the first couple of years, it was, here's your class schedule, here's what you're going to get, this is what you're going to get taught, blah, 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 blah. So that was quite good. And there was even parts of it, like 20 to 30% of the classes were participation. So you turn up, you take part, you ask questions and stuff, and that applies to your grades, and that's not a thing in the UK, at least in most universities, especially talking to some of the guys that I know. So there's that part, so like the subjects and whatnot. The whole experience of going to US uni. I mean, obviously the US culture is very sport driven, especially at university. So it's very different to a UK university, just because they're both academically driven, but there is a lot more sport in US universities. Like, there's not just your sort of inter-uni competitions. You'll have your inter-uni competitions, your varsity teams, and then you'll have like intramural teams, which is like the on campus. The students will all compete against each other in loads of different things, anything you can think of, and that's the same as UK unis, but it's like on another level. So like with all the facilities you have, especially my school wasn't the biggest for sport, but the facilities were still outrageous. Whereas when I went to universities to visit before I chose where to go in the UK, the facilities were good, but versus the US, there was another whole another level. If you're going to the US from a different country, that's again a whole different culture thing. Some people, it's like a big culture shock. I really enjoyed the like the get up and go attitude of the US sort of culture kind of thing. It really suited me. Some people didn't quite enjoy that kind of thing. But like I said, there's something for everyone, and that really applies to any university, not just US unis. Training wise, so I would train in, so it depends on all universities, especially rowing ones, are different in how they train. But basically, it was training the morning quite early. We varied from 5 to 6:30 start in the morning, and then you would train for a couple of hours, and then have first class, which would, yes, it would be pushed later. You can schedule your classes later. So I think it was 9:40 was the earliest we could take, 9:30. But that meant that you would be training straight to class, and then depending on when your classes were, all day or half the day or whatever, and then you would have a session in the evening. That's generally the training schedule. So morning classes all day, evening session, and that depended on weights or ergs or on the water and all that stuff. But the training itself was vastly different than what I'm doing now. There was a lot of sort of battle paddling, a lot of side-by-side stuff, and that's just the way our university trained versus the how we train now. Partly because the team that I was on was just shy of 40 guys, so 40 sweet guys. So basically, you had enough for at least 4/8s, and then you could all go out and just side by side and just go. Whereas at Leander just now, there are, yes, there's maybe like around 30 guys, but there's some of them are scullers, some of them are trying to do other stuff. So there's enough for more than 1/8, but not 4/8s anyway. There's not 40 guys specifically looking at sweeping. And competition wise, rowing wise in general, I mentioned nationals. So you have, if you're on the East Coast, you can do all like the Charles events. You've got the Foot of the Charles, which is 2 mile race, like the Head of the Charles, but it's the Foot of the Charles. And it's in the fall as well. It's like kind of signals the end of fall or the start of winter. And that's just a shorter race, smaller boats, usually in 4s, against the sort of East Coast schools or anybody else who comes across. You've got the Head of the Charles, obviously, as well. So that's 3 miles, head race, one of the biggest regattas in the world. That's both of them are head races. Then, depending on schedules and stuff, we have the Princeton Chase, another head race on the Princeton course. I think that's about it for the fall. For the fall or the autumn, winter. We used to go on camp to, depending on where it was, usually Florida, just to get out of in Boston, the water would freeze for a couple of months. So that was a big thing for me. So you couldn't get on the water. So we went on camp for a couple of weeks at some stage in the winter, or we would just do lots of land training, lots of erging, lots of tank work, lots of weights, and anything else we could do on land to train. And then racing season comes around, so dual racing is a big thing rather than sort of just side by side or 6-lane racing. So one year it was usually, I think, around 5 or 6 dual races every weekend, or it'd be like 1 weekend, 2 weekend, 3 weekends, a break, 4 weekends, 5 weekends. But that'd be dual races, so like Henley, side by side, go, and then the winner is whoever gets to the finish line first. And then post-season, which for us would be when class is finished. So Northeastern starts quite early in January, but finishes very early in around April. So that's just about, I think it's just after Eastern Sprints or just before Eastern Sprints, where that starts the post-season racing, which is 6-lane racing, depending on the race, and it's all side by side. So you come into a regatta season kind of thing. So you've got Eastern Sprints and IRAs, which is the national championships, and that's around, it was 2 weeks apart or 4 weeks, but they were distance apart. So you have your Joe racing and your post-season racing, which was the 6-lane regatta racing. So very different types of racing, but both awesome. And like I said, so I went to Northeastern University in Boston, and Boston itself is an amazing place to be. I mean, as some people describe it as like a clean New York. It's less busy than, it's a big city, but it's less busy than, say, New York or any other big cities in the States. But it is a city, so you have a lot of stuff going on, especially if you go out and look for it. But at the same time, if you don't want to, it's like not too busy where it's just overwhelming. But I really recommend, if you're trying to go to university anywhere, that you go and visit that place first. So Jake's question was about like my experience, and he's visiting other universities. So I would definitely take the advantage to visit any university you want to go to, and then compare them. Sometimes you think you want to go somewhere, you visit that place, and then you talk to the coach or you talk to some of the guys, and you think, maybe not. Or somewhere you might not want to go, but you visit anyway, and then you talk to the coach, you talk to the guys, you think, okay, this is actually where I really want to go. So that can really make a difference, especially even just seeing the place that you might end up spending 4 years is a huge thing. I didn't actually visit Northeastern before I went, just how it worked out, and it worked out well, but I was lucky. I've heard stories of some guys going without visiting and not liking it and then transferring out in the next year or so. But that was my experience. Let me know in the comments below if I've missed anything out or you might want to know. I could make another video answering questions. I think I've covered quite a bit, but I might have skipped something that may be of interest to you. So let me know in the comments below if I have. But that will be it for today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And like Jake did, he sent me a DM just asking a question. And since he sent that, then I know other people are interested in the topic as well. So that's answered his question and also hopefully answered some of yours too. So remember, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that like button, and have a good one.